How are you guys? Welcome back to Wargaming China. Now, I haven't been very productive the last few months, but I've been doing a lot of painting, and you'll be glad to know that the painting is finished. So I'll be getting back to platforming more games, playing more games, and making more videos. Now, because when I've got the mojo for painting, I have to paint because I very rarely get the mojo for painting. And I finished my Guangxi Clique regiment of the Guangxi Clique. So, look, you know that this is my free channel, that I just platform my understandings of the war of resistance against Japanese aggression from 1931 to 1945. So when I bring you this Guangxi army, I should have made this Guangxi army a couple of years ago because I feel it for one or two battles, and I used a substitute. But in my channel, you've seen the Guangxi army at Ansin and Black Dragon Mountain, and for the coming campaign of the drive of the Japanese 13th Infantry Division northward towards Suzhou, the Chinese defense, a large part of it was fought by the 31st Army of the 11th Army Group, and that consisted of the 31st Army and the 131st, 135th and 138th Division. Now, I'm getting a bit carried away here, so I'll go back to tell you more about the Guangxi Clique. Now, the new Guangxi Clique, on the 8th of April 1924, Zongren, Huang Shaohong and Bai Chongxi established the new Guangxi Clique. They defeated the old Guangxi Clique of Lu Rongting by aligning their armies with the Yunnan and Guangdong cliques. Now, the old clique had disintegrated by 1923, and the pro-KMT, pro-Chiang, Lai Zongren, had crushed all remnants of it by 1924. Lai Zongren would be the KMT appointed governor of Guangxi until 29, when he was replaced by Huang Shaohong. However, Lai was still the most powerful figure in the Guangxi clique. So at this point you might ask yourself a question. Now, I've told you these are warlord armies, so you might ask yourself, if Lai Zongren is a commissioned officer in the NRA, the National Revolutionary Army, how is he still a warlord? Well, basically Chiang's entire KMT was an alliance of warlords, with him at its head. Lai Zongren and the Guangxi clique formed a faction within the KMT. All the cliques maintained their own armies separate to the state because of tensions and sometimes open hostilities within China itself. Disarming warlord armies was in most cases impossible because of bandits, lawlessness, and then the threat of the communists. Add to that the warlords themselves always vying for a chance to expand at another's expense. So it was very difficult for Chiang to even think about this. We think of the Northern Exhibition as ending the warlord era. Well, it did and it didn't. As I said, so the warlords are still around. Now, at its peak in 1927, the Guangxi clique controlled Guangxi province, a large part of Guangdong province, Hunan and Hubei. However, in 1929, Chiang attempted to reorganize the army, then at the NRA, and this sparked the Central Plains War because it threatened the warlord stability. And this sparked the Central Plains War, which Chiang defeated the new Guangxi clique in the Central Plains War, but it formed an alliance with Chen, the warlord governor of Guangdong. Now, this was 1931, and if the Japanese hadn't invaded on the 18th of September 1931, maybe things would have gone differently, but there had to be a united front against the Japanese, or within China, to show no weakness against the Japanese. So the whole thing was, Chiang never forgot grudges. But we'll carry on. The new Guangxi clique was certainly a different kettle of fish compared to the old Guangxi clique. The new Guangxi clique established a university in Nanning, the capital of Guangxi, They also built bridges and nearly 5,000 kilometers of roads, roads which are almost completely bandit free. Guangxi seemed to flourish under the new Guangxi Clique. New power stations were built, and this electrification brought foreign investors and helped establish a small industrialization of the province. And it only had a little bit of corruption. To all this, all of this done with only a little bit of corruption. The NGC, the new Guangxi Clique, even opened up farmland and made small land reforms. Now, all of that sounds great, doesn't it? But the truth was that Guangxi was in a never-ending series of confrontations and standoffs with rival warlords and cliques, and that military expenditure soared year after year. So taxes were raised again and again and again. This stifled and stagnated economic growth. Now, as far as industrialization goes, the clique never built a large arsenal, so it was dependent on for weapons. They had to buy everything it needed. Now, at one time, the Northern Guangxi's army, the new Guangxi Clique's army, was called the Guangxi Pacification Army. Although it could also be referred to as the Guangxi Provincial Army, it could also at one point was the 7th Army, and then the 15th Army, and then the 48th Army. But let's not forget that although it could be referred to, let's not forget the troops within the Guangxi Clique swore to serve an allegiance to their warlord commanders, not the NRA and not Chiang. And these commanders were the ones that swore allegiance to Chiang. So their troops swore allegiance to their commanders, and the commanders swore allegiance to Chiang. So the armies were independent. Now, by 1935, the Guangxi army was roughly of a strength of about 36,000 men in 6 divisions, 6,000 men per division. However, with the coming war, the army was expanded, and as the Japanese and the war as the war progressed, and the power of the clique itself started to diminish, and the Lai Zongren himself was more and more part of the central government. Then we'll see that throughout the war, Guangxi province probably provided, 900,000 troops were recruited in Guangxi province alone between 1937 and 1945. So that shows you the manpower available in Guangxi province. Now, so the army that we're looking at here is the figures are Caesar, World War II French, conversions of the Caesar World War II Chinese infantry, and some airfix World War I French infantry with the coattails cut off. They have long coats, so I cut all the coattails off. So for the fighting on the River Chi and the defense of the defense against the Japanese 13th Infantry Division, as I said, we had to assemble elements of the 31st Army. Now, the Guangxi Army, as I said, not much is written about it. So, quite a lot is written about it. But as for OBs, we've got to remember that each division was probably only 6,000 or so strong, not very well equipped, and not very well recorded as far as its OBs are concerned. So, This, well, as you know, this channel, I wargame in 20mm, but I know that other people wargame in 28mm or 15mm. So we'll start off with the platoon. So a platoon of the Guangxi army was 3 16-man squads, and the platoon was commanded by a second lieutenant. Now, 3 platoons made three platoons form a company. Three rifle platoons to an infantry company. Now, that gives us, with the officers, 45 plus 45 plus 9, that's 135 men. And then there's an officer, an NCO, and 2 buglers. So a strength at the company, at the company level of 141 figures. Now, so I made each of my rapid fire infantry companies at 9 figures. So now I'm going to move on and show you the rest of my army, show you the rest of what I've built. Okay, so I built a regiment for rapid fire, and now as you can see, I numbered all of the soldiers so that when it comes time to pack up your war games, if they're all numbered and color coded, it doesn't take you very long at all, and you don't lose figures, and straight away you know if you're missing any figures. So that's how you should always sort your war games army. So let me put these back in the box and I'll show you how we did a rapid fire army. So with the Guangxi province, for the paint colors I use, there were quite a few guides, but because each formation is pretty unique as far as its uniforms and equipment and OBs are concerned, I just went for a generic, more generic looking army. For the Guangxi Clique, you'll notice that these are wearing the Adrian helmets. Well, you can also have them in Brody helmets if you like, and you can mix Brody helmets and Adrian helmets in the same units, because that was what they did in real life. This army also, when it was in the field, it recruited from the Red Spear Societies, so quite a few Red Spear Societies members can also be found within the 31st Army Group. Now, for the Battle of Taizhuang, the 31st Army Group will be part of the 11th Army Group, even though the only army in the 11th Army Group is the 31st Army. And as I said, it consisted of 3 divisions, and I'll talk to them more about in my next video when I actually do the battle, the defense of the Chi River. But for now, as you can see, I'm getting all my figures easily back in. So all of these are finished this week, and as I said, I hate painting, but I had the mojo to do it. And when I get the mojo to do painting, I paint, because I really get the mojo to paint. I really don't like painting. It has to be done. This is now, I think this might be my 13th or 14th Chinese infantry regiment. I'm still, like I said, when I started this army, I had ambitions. My Chinese army, when I started them, I had ambitions of doing the Battle of Shanghai as a campaign, and thought, well, I'm going to need so many provincial armies. But then as the years go by and did more and more scenarios for Shanghai, I realised there'd be too many years' work just doing Shanghai. So I'm breaking the Shanghai scenarios up, and I'll present them to you over the years. I've had a couple more new subscribers. I lost a couple, but gained a few. Look, I've got 417 subscribers, and to be honest with you, I'm surprised I've got that. I don't have production schedules. I don't have production values or standards. I just come out here and have fun and just let you know what I'm doing. Alright. So, if we look at the Guangxi Army at the platoon level, there's no LMGs. If we look at the Guangxi Army at the company level, there's no LMGs. So, for a battalion of the Guangxi Clique, we'll start with 4. This is for Rapidfire. So we've got 4 infantry companies at 9 figures each. I should have done this before. I shouldn't have put them back in the box, but never mind. So 4, 9 each. And as I said, I put blanket rolls around the shoulders of a lot of the figures. The backpacks on the French airfix infantry, probably not too correct, but I used so few of them I didn't mind, and I wanted to use what I had in my spares box. And my buddy Jalen, who contributes so much to this channel, he gave me 2 boxes of the Caesar French infantry. So with that and what I had in the spares box, I made this regiment, and with the Caesar figures, and I think I got a nice regiment. I think I got the accuracy pretty good. As I said about the uniform, look, I could have gone for a long jacket, which was slightly darker brown than the pants, and perhaps the blankets I could have made green. But I wouldn't have what I had, because I know full well that not everybody. Well, I want to. Sometimes with my armies, a lot I could have gone for the darker long jacket. I didn't actually have figures with the darker long jacket, and it was only one picture, so it was only one unit. And as I said, I wanted a generic Guangxi army. So for Rapidfire, that's 4 infantry companies. So now you want your HQ. 60 figures in the regimental HQ. So that's 4 officer and bugler. Now the Guangxi province is a southern province, so I did find a place for the Caesar figures with the straw hat on their back, because they are definitely southerners. Now you ask, is that all you get for an entire battalion? Oh no, you get some fire support. For a battalion, you get 2 light machine guns. Now, the 2 light machine guns, as I said, they're at the. You could make them a separate support company of 2 light machine guns, or you could give one. Spread them out among. Just use them as you want. There were only 2 per battalion, so here they are at 1 to 1. So I'm cheating. It should only be 1 of them for the regiment, but as I said, I've got this campaign to the blocking force and of a cheat, and nobody. Details are very sparse. The terrain's harsh. I really can't figure out how the Guangxi Clique did manage it. The troops of the 31st Army did manage to delay the Jazz for so long. So I didn't feel guilty giving them the historical 2 light machine guns per infantry battalion. But, you know, so other people could tell me, oh, you're wrong there, biscuits. So, so if we have a battalion, put that there. So if we have a battalion, say, what support can you give it? Not much at all. Now then, now let's look at the regimental HQ. Regimental HQ. Again, not very much at all. Only 50, 60 odd figures to a regimental HQ in the Guangxi army. Because there's not much equipment, there's not much communications equipment, there's not many people that can read or write. This is an army that's hamstrung from lack of equipment, lack of education, literacy, and finances, lack of finances to buy enough equipment. I mean, all of these rifle companies, they were, you know, they were all short of rifles. They wouldn't have been at the official strength. They were all short of rifles. So therefore, there you go. I've got the HQ. I'll put that there. To the 5-man HQ, and I gave him the figures from hat. Ottoman heavy weapon set, and the guy at the back is from the Austrian heavy weapon set. Guy on a field telephone. Okay, so what would a regiment look? Guangxi Clique at the regimental level, there would have been available 2 platoons, or perhaps 3 platoons, of medium machine guns. And these are 2 medium machine guns per platoon. So 6 medium machine guns, again, for an entire regiment. So rapid fire, that's 1. Now, each division, or each regiment could have had or should have had 2 anti-aircraft guns attached. Now these could be the 20mm autocannon, but for this force I've given them the 13.2mm Hotchkiss. Now, at the divisional level, the Guangxi Clique, each Guangxi Clique division would have had an artillery battalion of 75mm guns. Now, these guns wouldn't have been much chop at all, and I've given them the 1903 75mm Krupp, was in service with so many armies. I felt justified in giving it to the Sichuan. So they would have had 4 of these to the division. So that's your divisional support. Also at the divisional level, there would have been 4 100 to 150mm mortars. So I've given them 1 120mm. This mortar, the mortars and the carriage are from both airfix. The mortars are from the Russian infantry, and carriage is from the airfix World War I horse artillery. This gun is again homemade. It's just some wheels from the spare set, cardboard gun shield, the barrel and recoil from the hat, 4.5-inch mountain gun, and that's a piece of the Opel Blitz truck as the carriage. So, you know, So 4 of them for the division. At the army level, an artillery battalion with 2 platoons of 75mm field guns. 2 platoons equals 4 guns. So the force I've made is perhaps a little bit extra firepower for the Guangxi Clique, but then again, I had nothing to like, I only had references here and there. I had not one solid source to tell me what the Guangxi Clique was, how its OBs were. The only closest I could come was I looked at the for these I looked at the encirclement campaigns in Guangxi province in 1933, and that's where I got the company strength from, company and platoon strengths from. So, what did I do to make this army a bit better? Well, because this army has to face a Japanese army with tanks, the 40,000 strong Imperial Japanese Army 13th Infantry Division, which is an hellaciously strong Japanese formation, I decided to give this regiment two of the Bofors hybrids with the 80mm mortar and the 37mm anti-tank gun. Now I gave them these because, again, you see, I know trying to field these armies, I wanted to field these guns in my armies. And this Guangxi Provincial Army is the army of which I had the most grey spots I couldn't fulfill. So, unless I find out something is wrong or right, they'll be part of the division, just to give them the edge they're going to need in the forthcoming battles on the wargames table. So, historically, for rapid fire, 3 battalions, and that. But for this game, I'm going to give them an extra guns and a few extra things. Because I can't see any other way of performing the battles and having a decent war game. It still won't be a fair game. The Japanese will be outnumbering this army in so many different factors. How many guns they'll be bringing, how much ammunition they've got, how many men they've got, how well trained the men are, how many rifles the men have got. In every way or class that you can think of, this Japanese army is going to be superior to this Guangxi Provincial Army. However, now that I've done it, I'm very glad to have it and add it to my armies, and I hope that you will share this video with a friend or on your Facebook groups or things like that. Look, I'd like to see that. I hope you'll press like. I'd like more subscribers, and talk a bit more about the infantry regiment. So what I went for is I went for an infantry regiment of the 91st, 92nd and 93rd infantry regiments. So one of them, and these regiments will be. You're going to see this army in the next few games up on the table as I refight, or as I game out for the first time the advance of the 13th IGA Division. And now, as you can see, all of my armies are always stored nicely. I don't. There's no point in building an army and then not housing it nicely so it's protected and looked after. One of the joys of wargaming is not having to fix things. So as I said, a plastic army, and as I said, the light machine guns I made from, they were interesting. I made that's the American World War I airfix infantry with a head swap. The top half of the body of the figure with the machine gun is the French World War II Caesar infantry, and the bottom half is the observer from the Ottoman heavy weapon set. So the legs from them. Now this army, although at this range you can see that's the French LMG, I can't remember the name of it. From 3 foot away, it looks close enough to the Czech light machine guns that were in common service with the Chinese. However, if I were to make this army a little bit more accurate, I would field Lewis guns with these Guangxi Clique. Now, that will be, that will cause a lot of discussion, and people say I was wrong. The Guangxi Clique bought a lot of Lewis guns. So, but as I said, because I had to buy arms from everywhere, there's, it could have been fielding anything. So, a French LMG, or a Czech LMG, or a Lewis gun. The French one's a bit unbelievable, although there were some in service in China. The Czech LMG would be more believable, and probably the Lewis gun would be, if I could know the exact name of the unit, and I could match that with a Lewis gun, but I don't. All right then. I hope you enjoyed that. Hope you press subscribe. If you ain't subscribed, if you watch my videos, you ain't subscribed, just hit subscribe, man. It's that button down there. Just whack that. All right, that's all for now. See ya.